If psychology and pop culture had a baby, they'd call it Shrink Tank.
A new paper reveals more intelligent people are quicker to learn and unlearn.
90% chance that there's some weird animal out there.
Howard Stern's been doing this forever. And far more extreme. From Nashville and Charlotte, this is the Shrink Tank Podcast. And welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville. We've got a great show for you. Our trending topic today is the psychology of Justin Timberlake. We're going to talk about that in a little while. But first, let's meet our Charlotte panel. Dr. Emma Kate Wright is here. Hello, Emma Kate.
Hi, Dave.
How would you think the year has started overall for you?
For me, this has actually been a good year so far.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's been good. I haven't had any weird fluke things happen because we've talked about it before, but I'm not a very lucky person. So, that's always a pro and nothing really bad happens. So,
well, I was watching, this is a little bit of a spoiler. So if you watch This Is Us and haven't got caught up on a lot of episodes, then you might want to not listen to this part. But it's clear that on This Is Us, the dad dies in a house fire. And I was thinking of Emma Kate. It was like, yep. So you haven't had a house fire. Yeah, they haven't actually shown that, but they've shown the beginning. They've shown the house fire starting, and then they've shown the preview of what comes next week.
That's so scary.
Yeah, for the Super Bowl, they're going to show it right after the Super Bowl, so they're going to get lots of viewers for that.
What a happy post Super Bowl type of episode.
That's
Oh my gosh, I know it's the weirdest. It's almost counter programming because usually they have a special hour-long Friends or something that's or a Family Guy or Simpsons. This is it will be a very sad
intense
episode of This Is Us. So
maybe they're predicting that New England's going to win and everybody's already going to be really down and defeated. And they're like, hey, we can top that. How about a house fire drama?
Well, or they're going to lose and then they'll be like, everyone's so excited that it's not another Patriots Super Bowl. They can handle this.
Well,
Yay!
let's be honest. If Philadelphia wins, they're going to celebrate by setting people's houses on fire.
Yeah.
And so that's really going to be the
Philadelphia will
connection.
burn to the ground.
Yeah.
yeah, that might be it. That's the connection. Well, Frank, how's this year started off for you?
I will say it started out pretty good. We had wonderful snow days off. Mm-hmm. I had a little cold. I haven't had a cold in really probably a couple of years, and I had one, and I forgot how depressed I get when I get a cold. I believe you're the same way, aren't you, Dave?
Weirdly, yes. I hardly ever get depressed, but if I have a fever for any reason, I would be fine if I died right then. Once my fever
100%.
gets to be 101 or more, I get all melancholy and want to die.
Wow. Yep. I'm Dave, and I'm not a big baby when sick.
Yeah.
No,
That's pretty much it.
I'm
That's
exactly
a man
the
thing.
same
I
way.
don't know.
Thank goodness.
I just want it to all be over.
Yeah.
I'm resilient until I'm sick, and then I'm like, oh, I'm a puddle of mess.
You say it like it's a joke. That's exactly what I say, in exactly that same voice too, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, you've had a month of the first month of 2018 under your belt. Good year so far?
Yeah, it's been kind of weird. This is actually the first full week my daughters have had school for 5 days, so that's really kind of thrown us off. Either snow days or Martin Luther King Jr. holidays or starting school midweek after the holiday break. So it feels like it's taken a while to sort of get into a rhythm at our house. And Julie has been not working, doing some physical therapy rehab because she's had some health stuff. So it definitely feels like we're been a little bit scattered, but I feel like we're getting our bearings now.
Well, Jonathan, each week you troll the internet and you try to find a great story for us of psychology in the news for the first segment of this podcast that we call
Being Human.
Well, all of us work with high schoolers in therapy, and there is a new show on A&E where 7 young adults went undercover as high school students and found that life as a teenager today is nothing like they remember. So these 7 young adults went undercover at a Kansas high school for the documentary series Undercover High. And over the semester, these folks were exposed to bullying, sexual harassment, poverty, violence, and drug addiction, among other issues. And in some cases, even the administration was not aware of the extent of the problems that were happening in their school. So, Frank, did you ever want to revisit high school after you graduated? And are you surprised by what surfaced in the Undercover High show?
Dude, I don't want to revisit yesterday, okay? Yeah, I'm not surprised at what they said. And in a lot of my presentations I give, I say I would never, ever, ever want to be a teenager today. I don't know how they survive. It's information overload. There's so much pressure. Then you've got helicopter parenting. And kids are much more sophisticated, at least than when I was growing up. So I'm not surprised by what they're experiencing. I'm more surprised of how they get away with that. Like, how as an adult can you get into a show like that? And man, I would lose my mind as a parent if I knew that was going on.
That there were adults
Yes.
roaming your kids' high school?
Yes.
But I think they're working, like the superintendent of that school district is in on this, and their whole goal is to use it for good. At least, I haven't seen this, so I'm just speaking off of what I have glimpsed.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But if, as a parent, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got this 15-year-old ninth grader, and I know that there are 20-something-year-olds undercover, I'm not okay with that. I am just not okay with that.
Yeah.
And if a superintendent comes to me and says, "No, we got to, undercover," like, no, you don't,
Frank.
No, you don't.
You don't have to worry about this because these are public high schools.
Right. There it is. There it is. 'Cause
so-
that would never happen. At a
You don't have to
private
worry
school.
about that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm
yeah.
also okay. Whatever, Adderley, you're a maniac. But the other thing is, I'm not surprised at the finding that teachers and principals didn't know about it. I mean, gosh, of course they don't. That's been the bumbling teacher, bumbling principal stereotype since the 70s.
I will comment on a positive side from what I have seen some of the clips. So obviously, we're hearing about a lot of the negative things that kids are experiencing, but there's one girl who she's 22 and she's one of the undercover people. I can't remember what her name is, but she actually, when she was a teen, she got pregnant. And I guess one of the things that it seems to be is that they show how there's a lot more support for teens that have become pregnant, just in terms of resources, than there was historically, which I think there are pros and cons to that, obviously. But, so I think that's interesting. I'll be curious to see how that is actually portrayed.
Yeah, I think if I was one of these undercover people going back to my high school, I would walk into that school, have a panic attack, then have a heart attack and just die. I couldn't take it. Knowing all the stuff that I know now and just the smell of high school, gross.
So from this one positive thing, let's put it back on Frank here. How is he going to die?
Okay.
Right now.
There it is.
There
it is. Can you imagine riding a bus?
There again.
You're like 23 years old.
One more
Hey,
time.
I'm going to get on the bus and I'm going to talk about all these stupid things that kids are talking about. What's your Instagram
Can
name?
you imagine Frank
No.
going into the men's locker room and having to change,
No.
or Frank going into the cafeteria and like, where am I going to sit? Who's going to sit with me?
Exactly.
Coming from the
I would
adult who
freak out.
And then everyone would be saying like, what's with that
Legos.
60-year-old sophomore? What's going on with him?
Boy.
Legos.
Maybe you should go visit your internment camp, Adderley. See how that's changed.
Oh, boy.
I just don't even know what happened right here. So high school brings up a lot of feelings and emotions for Frank.
Don't be a therapist.
Frank
Emma.
has the feels.
You don't have a license yet.
No, I will soon.
License or no license, you can't undo the damage
No.
done sitting to the left of me.
Deep rooted.
We stopped being a safe space for Frank here.
Yep.
Yeah. What are those safe zones?
Where you
Yeah.
can pet a puppy.
Yeah, I need a puppy right now.
You do.
Pet his whippet.
Well, speaking of being in high school, our trending topic today was Justin Timberlake, and I believe when he was in high school, he was famous. So talk about a different experience of life. Let's talk about him. He is going to perform the Super Bowl halftime show. This is the first time that he's done Super Bowl since the infamous Nipplegate. back in, how long ago was that? Like 14 years ago? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Long time ago.
Early 2000s.
Actually, I remember it plain as
Bet
day.
you do, Dave.
Because I was at Frank's house.
That's right.
The Carolina Panthers were in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They were a relatively young team, very young team, made it all the way to the Super Bowl. We were like, yay, had a big party at Frank's house, a bunch of people. And then we're sitting around talking and casually watching the halftime show. And all of a sudden, my wife Ellen goes, "What just happened?" And I glance and I'm like, "What just happened?"
Then they hit rewind, replay, rewind, replay, rewind, replay. When Nipplegate happened, it was the Panthers. I was still a youth pastor, and I had organized a youth Super Bowl party with
great.
middle school, high schoolers, and their parents. So. You have all of these kids, and we're just watching the Panthers get excited. Oh, and it's a halftime show with Justin Timberlake, and it's like, oh.
You know the best part of that story?
What?
That you were a youth pastor. Oh my gosh, those poor kids.
Weren't you a Bible study leader?
Yeah, played worship music. Yes. Dave was witness to all of this.
I was witness to all of it.
Hosanna.
Were you the Michael W. Smith of your time?
Because a friend's a friend forever.
Emma Kate, did you watch that? Did you see the halftime show with the infamous Nipplegate?
When you were 8?
I know. I was a big Panthers fan, and I did watch it. And I remember thinking, why did he do that? And it was, everyone tried to act like it was some accident when it was very clearly intentional, because it was like at this moment, I can't remember what the lyric was. And then all of a sudden it's like, boop, there it is. And I just couldn't handle it.
Boop, there it is.
Boop, there it is. Boop, there.
But yeah, no, it was weird, because I just kept thinking, I was like, clearly she meant to show it because she has a nipple pasty on. And so why else would that be there? And
Maybe it feels nice.
I don't know. I mean, Frank, is there something you need to tell us? Do you wear nipple pasties from time to time? Oh, my God.
Good theory there, Frank.
All right.
So let's get back on track and talk about Justin Timberlake. And last week we talked about Oprah, and I just went around the horn and asked your general impression of Oprah. I'm going to ask the same question of you about Timberlake. What is your general impression, and what do you make of Justin Timberlake? Emma Kate.
I will tell you that I was a huge NSYNC fan when I was younger. And I think Justin Timberlake is immensely talented. I think he is a great performer. He's a great entertainer. However, the vibe that I get from some stories that may or may not have been true that I read about him is that he's probably not who he portrays himself to be, the way that Oprah is, where we talked last week about how she's just very authentic, or at least that's what we think. And I don't think he is that way. And as, he's gotten older, I have found myself liking him less and less for some reason. But I don't think I don't know. He's extremely talented, but I guess I just get this sense of him as being kind of douchey. I don't know.
Frank.
Well, I know very little about the lad, as I
The lad.
don't listen to music.
The wee babe.
But I believe his sense of style is pretty cool, and I think he's got some pretty sweet moves, as I've seen. But all kidding aside, he's one of these people that I sort of question who he truly is because of his child star status. Because I don't see many child stars go through all that and come out unscathed. And his talent, I remember I saw Justin Bieber play the piano. I can't remember what award ceremony or something. And I was just blown away by his talent. And all that success and stuff it ruined him as far as I can tell. And I can't imagine Timberlake's not carrying around some of that childhood baggage and the whole Britney Spears stuff. There's got to be some skeletons there.
Jonathan.
Justin Timberlake is like the textbook entertainer and showman. He wants to be popular. He wants to entertain. He's good at it. It was very clear early on with NSYNC that he was going to be the breakout person. That's just proven to be true. He's got an element of charisma when you watch him, but I think he knows how to draw attention to himself. And I don't necessarily think that that's a negative thing. I think that's, if you want to be an entertainer and a showman, you have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I think when you see Hugh Jackman in some of his more musical, theatrical performances, he has the same kind of charisma and attention, whether it be Les Mis or The Greatest Showman. I think he's talented, but his type of music is not really my cup of tea. And part of that is his music tends to be very melodic, so it's very danceable, it's catchy, but to me it's immediately forgettable because I'm much more into the intersection of melody and lyrics, and his music really has nothing substantial to say, and I don't think that's necessarily an automatic drawback. I think that can be the nature of the genre of pop radio-friendly music. Although I do think some people have the ability to say something substantial or unforgettable with that medium. But I think he's more of an entertainer than an artist. Like I kind of package him with Bruno Mars, that they don't create a lot of like original content. That I think they sometimes just blend other people's influences and they do a great version of it. And sometimes it's pastiche to me. But he's not. He's good at a lot of things. I think he's actually more talented as an entertainer on like SNL and with comedy and when he was in Pop Star. Like that, I think he's really funny. I would actually
hilarious.
I would actually probably enjoy him more in his acting and comedic roles than just as music. So like the Super Bowl, I'm probably not going to be that into it. The other thing that I think both of you guys have touched on, and this is pure intuition. This is just me reading body language and other stuff like that. But dude, the guy gives off sort of a douchey vibe, full of himself kind of vibe. I really have nothing to stand on that. Like I haven't read anything that people are saying like he is a fraud but that's just sort of the vibe I get, and he has to be aware that vibe is out there. Like all three of us are indicating some degree of that. It's not like we are seeing something that's not there. Whether it's true or not, I will cop out like I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea about that. I know he's immensely talented, and like you guys have said, I mean, he's talented as a musical performer, as an actor, as a comedic performer, as a producer. I mean, he's a very, very talented person. And I will say this, even though I agree with you that a lot of his comic stuff, SNL, Jimmy Fallon, all that is really top notch. I saw him at Pilgrimage Festival here in Nashville this past year, and he was exceptional. Like I will say, it was one of the best concert experiences I've ever been to, and I've been to probably 200 concerts. And this was a lineup on the day that he did this. There was Better Than Ezra. There were let's see, who else was that day? There was Gary Clark Jr., the Avett Brothers. I mean, like a really solid lineup. And there was probably, I don't know how many, 20,000 people out there. He had that whole field, that whole crowd in the evening just wrapped around his finger. I will say, if that's a taste of what is going to be delivered for the Super Bowl, it'll be great. It'll really be exceptional. So I'm like you. There's not necessarily, I don't love a lot of his music in terms of individual songs. Like I think that that dance song is just, it feels like it was made in a pop culture, a pop music factory. It just feels very fabricated. But I think he's a fantastic performer. So let's get into the psychology of it a little bit more. Frank already alluded to this about him being a child star and growing up as a famous person and how that does a number on people. We've seen it do a number on Bieber. We've seen it do a number on Britney Spears. We've seen it do a number on countless other actors and actresses and musical performers. And yet we're kind of speculating that he might have a little bit of, might be a little full of himself, but he seems to have escaped from that relatively unscathed. He's able to maintain long-term relationships, close relationships. He seems like he's relatively free of scandal. Do you think that there's more there, or how would you guess that he's been able to do that? What's your take, Emma Kate?
Well, one thing I remember from when I was younger is that he always had a very strong connection with his family.
Yes.
And it felt like his family was really stable in comparison to other celebrities that we've heard about. Like, for instance, I always think of Lindsay Lohan having this amazing career with Mean Girls, fantastic. And yet her family is so dysfunctional,
Right.
and everyone knows about it. But I feel like he had a really good, safe place to go to bounce ideas off potentially. And again, this is all speculating. But so I feel like that in and of itself is such a huge factor where he probably had people who could help guide him and protect him versus just being surrounded by the machine, so to speak, the celebrity machine, where you're going to go out here and you're going to do this and it's going to get you a lot of attention, and that may be negative attention, but it's getting you attention. That's a good thing. And I think he was protected from some of that.
And it's sort of the golden rule, don't date a guy with mommy issues. And I don't. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And he doesn't seem to have mommy issues, so I think that probably protected him through a lot of that process. That he had some supervision, he had good role models, he had good relationships. So I think there is more there, but it takes a rare person to be under that spotlight for that long with that much money and that much power to not let it go to your head on some level.
Well, being in the industry already, like it's full of people that are maybe full of themselves. So I don't necessarily see that as this spectacularly unique thing about Justin Timberlake. I do agree with you all in terms of like family support. There's a part of Justin that I feel like a lot of other child celebrities, in addition to maybe dysfunctional families or being pushed into celebrity and show business, a lot of them I feel like they flame out because there's this deep need to be popular or to, that they want to be famous. I don't know why, but there's a part of Justin I feel like he just wants to entertain. Like he is an entertainer. So that he has this drive then to perform, to be a part of vehicles, whether it be acting or live concerts or music and all these other things, that for him, he just has this energy that needs an outlet. And I think that drive and tenacity versus being famous and popular probably keeps him focused on his career more than other people that might get into drugs or other things, because it's really about the celebrity lifestyle rather than they know exactly what they want to do in their career in show business.
Yeah, along those lines too, I wonder, he is supremely talented and I think has always known that. I don't think there's any insecurity, and I don't mean this in a narcissistic way. I mean, I don't think there's been any insecurity on his part about his talent. He's had people in the industry that have been, top music producers, top musicians, and even people in acting that have really said, this guy is, a cut above in terms of, I mean, I remember hearing interviews where people describe him to Michael Jackson. And so I think if you're that talented, you've gotten the feedback about it, and you have the base that we're talking about with just family support and kind of that base, then you can kind of go through this experience without that constant insecurity and striving and worry and all that stuff that I think eats other people up.
I will comment, and I'm curious what you all think about this too. I feel like historically he has always been immensely popular, and his recent album that's come out is getting a lot of mixed reviews. And I've listened to the 2 singles, and I'm really I don't like them that much. But then there's also this interesting controversy with he filmed in the Woody Allen movie Wonder Wheel, and he has been criticized for being contradictory because he says he's supporting the Me Too movement, but yet then he did this work. And I don't know if you guys saw the tweet that went out that was recently talked about with Dylan Farrow. Do you guys heard any of that? So for those who don't know, Justin Timberlake posted on Twitter, random question, can someone please explain the saying, you just want your cake and to eat it too? What else does that mean? And Dylan Farrow just went in there and ripped him a new one, essentially saying, the saying means, for example, you can't support #times up and praise sexual predators at the same time. So I feel like we're going to see a new side, at least I think, a new side of Justin potentially, because there's a potential here for negative feedback, which I don't think he's accustomed to. Do you guys agree? Or I don't know.
I don't know. I think that he doesn't get as much of the criticism because he's not purely an actor. And so there probably hasn't been a pretty strong paper trail of him championing Woody Allen or speaking in a manner where that seems contradictory. Obviously, everybody that's worked with Woody Allen now is having to come out and take some type of public position on that. And so I think for him, it'll just be a matter of time. I think he's trying to steer the narrative right now away from his work with Wonder Wheel. But I envision he'll say something in some way, shape, or form. I do think people do like him, so he sometimes gets a pass. But I also, he's been married, so as far as I'm aware, he hasn't himself ever been embroiled in any type of sex scandal or misconduct with women or females. So I think that also has provided him a degree of shielding that maybe others don't have.
Yeah, and I will say I think it's largely unfair criticism, and I don't think we have enough time for me to really get into that, but I think we should devote an episode to talking about that and some of the nuances that are happening, because I think the Me Too movement is very important, but I also think it's in a really precarious spot right now where it's in terms of who's getting hit with it and why, and some of the lack of ability to make shades of difference and even to say that that's important. Like there's a message of like it's all the it's kind of everyone's being painted with a similar brush, and so I would love to talk about that in more detail. But my short answer is I'm not so sure that's fair to him.
Yep.
Well, let's wrap this up with I promised you guys last week that I would have an Oscar quiz, and since we're in the Oscar season, off and on we'll have a little bit of Oscar information, Oscar trivia. Here's a 2-round Oscar quiz. I have a question for each of you.
I'm also really glad I prepared for this, but keep going.
Here we go. All right. So I've tried to make fair questions for each of you. All right. Jonathan, what's the only X-rated movie to win Best Picture? By the way, the first round is Oscars past and the second round is Oscars present. So what's the only X-rated movie to win Best Picture?
That would be not Debbie Does Dallas. No, I mean that received a lot of critical acclaim. But I think it would be Midnight Cowboy.
That's correct.
That is correct. Midnight Cowboy. Believe it or not, X-rated and won Best Picture. We think of X-rated as being porno, but at the time it just meant a movie that was off limits for kids, and that sense has kind of had different connotations. All right, Emma Kate, who is the only woman to win Best Director?
Only woman.
You can give me either the woman or the movie.
Was it the director of Monster?
Nope.
I don't know who directed that. I don't know.
I know the movie.
I don't know.
Frank, do you know?
Hurt Locker.
That's it. Catherine Bigelow, Hurt Locker. All righty, Frank, here's a question for you. How many Oscars did the original Star Wars win? How many did they win? The original film.
I'm going to go...
0.
3.
3. Anybody else want to take a guess on this one before I give you the answer?
0.
I think it won 4.
It won 6.
Wow.
It was nominated for 10. It won 6.
Dang.
All righty. All right, so we've got 1 point for Jonathan going into the second round. These are Oscars present. These are based on this current year's nominations. Jonathan, This year, the movie Logan was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. What's the only other superhero movie that ever received a nomination for screenwriting?
That is a good question. The conventional wisdom would say The Dark Knight, but I don't think that it did. So I probably am talking myself out of the answer here, but I'm going to say the original Superman.
It was The Incredibles.
Oh.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yep.
All right. Emma Kate. Until this year, only one Oscar category never had a woman nominated in it. But this year, Rachel Morrison broke that nasty streak for her work in the movie Mudbound. What was the category?
I just saw this. It's cinematography.
You got it. Cinematography.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
Bringing
look
her
at you.
B
Yeah.
game.
You have some knowledge.
I do.
All right. Frank, your last question. Believe it or not, Kobe Bryant was nominated for an Oscar this year. What category was he nominated in?
Best athlete. Okay, wait. Wow. Best supporting actor.
No.
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 Okay.
That would be animated short. He made a film called Dear Basketball. He got nominated. Okay.
Please.
Okay, so to wrap this up, both Emma Kate and Jonathan have 1 point each. So here's the tiebreaker. Walt Disney has received the most Oscar nominations of any individual. How many Oscar nominations has Walt Disney, or did he receive in his lifetime? All right, we're not doing Price is Right rules. It's just whoever's closest. Whoever's closest to the number. Jonathan.
Most. I'm going to do 34.
I feel like it's 24.
The answer is 59.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
All
That's
right.
nominations or wins?
Nominations. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan's our winner with 1 point. Actually, 2.
Impressive.
Impressive. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Shrink Tank Podcast. We hope you'll check out shrinktank.com for articles and videos, all kinds of cool things on shrinktank.com. And also follow us on Twitter at shrink_tank and like us on Facebook. Our producer and music composer, Sean Beck. For Emma Kate Wright, Jonathan Hedderly, and Frank Gaskell in Charlotte, I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville. Please tell your friends about us and make it a great week.